Hello and welcome to the kitchen, and no prizes for guessing the victim of today's recipe, and it's these wonderful yellow peppers. So these are Italian corno di toro, bull's horn peppers, and yeah, they're just coming good now, ripening up, and they are lovely. Really good size this year. That one looks almost a bit more like a bell pepper, but it is nonetheless from the same plant as these. And yeah, I've got lots of these, and I'm going to make a yellow pepper soup. Now, it might sound a little bit strange, but it really is absolutely delicious. And the yellow peppers, they have a subtle flavour, more so than the red peppers. The flavour of the red pepper is so much more robust, but the yellow pepper have this beautiful, sweet, subtle flavour, and in a creamy soup, it is really brought out. And it's funny, I've only ever had this once, and we were staying just one night somewhere in the countryside in Tuscany before moving on to somewhere else, and we were served a yellow pepper soup, and I've never had it before or since in Tuscany, so I'm pretty sure it is not a local dish. I don't know if it's common in another part of Italy, or whether maybe they just had a large supply of yellow peppers from the garden or the market, but in any event, we were served this yellow pepper soup, and it was so delicious. It sounds a little bit dull, but the flavour of these, when they're prepared this way, is so fantastic that most of the yellow peppers, the big ones that we grow, they are earmarked for making this soup. It's fantastic, but of course this is a rather extravagant dish, I think, because in the shops a large quantity of yellow peppers is pretty pricey, or it can be. But I've got tons of these, and they cost me almost nothing. So I think peppers are one of the better crops to grow. If you like them and you would use a lot of them potentially, then they are one of the better crops to grow from an economical perspective, because we get more peppers than we can, almost more than we can eat, but certainly more than we can eat during the summer. And I will freeze lots of chilies, and I'm also going to freeze some of the smaller sweet peppers this year, and they can be used in all sorts of dishes through the winter. And because they are in the shops quite pricey, I think that is an added bonus. But anyway, let's just take a look at one of these. I rather like the look of this fellow. Yeah, I mean, that's lovely. There's not an awful lot of seed in there. Just going to tear that membrane out. I don't want that. But they never have too much seed in this variety. But I mean, that's just perfect, and you can smell them. They're beautiful. So I've no idea how this dish was prepared in Tuscany, but as soon as we got home, I tried to recreate it, and I've at least got the flavour right. Whether I've got the ingredients and the method entirely the same, I couldn't say, but I've got some carrots here. I've already chopped those, just medium sort of dice. I've got some lovely Italian red onions here. Those are beautiful, sweet and delicious. And then I've got a mountain of the peppers. Later on, I'm going to add some stock. I'm going to use a light chicken stock and maybe a little bit of water. Not too much stock. The yellow peppers have to be the star of the show. It would be a complete waste if I put anything in that would detract from their flavour. I'm not even putting garlic in, and that is very unusual for me. But you could use a vegetable stock. I'm going to use chicken stock, and not too much of it. I don't want too much. These I'm just going to cut into fairly large pieces, and the method is ever so simple. I'm going to get a pan on the hob, and I'm going to start cooking these carrots, and this stage of making a soup is so important. And I think there's always that temptation to rush and throw the stuff in the pan, give it a quick turn around and get the liquid in. But that is not the best way to get flavour out of the veg. To cook them out properly, saute them for, well, actually almost as long as you like. But if you just do it for a couple of minutes, you don't maximise the flavour. You don't get the sweetness from the vegetables, and that's what we want here. So I'm going to cook these carrots for at least 5 minutes, maybe longer, before I add the peppers, and they're going to cook for probably a good quarter of an hour until they're softened, and maybe they'll catch just a little bit of colour. And then finally the onions will go in, and that is it. But that process of sweating off those vegetables is so important. Then I'll get the stock in, splash of cream, blend it all up, and the job is done. So anyway, I'm going to continue to chop up these peppers. The onions, I'm just going to slice through them and chop them into large pieces. These will break down as they cook. That is fine. So the prep is really quick and easy. Well, my hob is warming up, but he's so slow. I'll just take a little pause and have a slurp. Chef's perks. Something else I'm going to do while the veggies are cooking, just make a few nice croutons. So I've got some stale bread here, and it's already quite crispy. So I've got a little pan, knob of butter, splash of olive oil. I've got 1 clove of garlic there, which I've just crushed. Mix that around, and I'll get those in a fairly warm oven, and I want to leave those until they're nice and golden and crisp. It won't take too long. Stale bread is ideal for this. This is some old baguette, perfect for making croutons. It's not really necessary gilding the lily, as it were, but I'm sure they will be delicious. Yeah, there's a little bit of warmth there. So I'm just going to start with the carrots. Don't want too fierce a heat. I don't want too much colour on them, but they can get a little bit of colour, and that is going to take quite a few minutes. So while the carrots are sizzling away, I'll get a knob of butter in that pan and a little splash of olive oil. Not too much. And in with that crushed clove of garlic. I've left the skin on. It does help prevent it from burning a little bit. So the butter's starting to sizzle now, and before it picks up any colour, just get these croutons in there. Just going to mix them around a little bit, and then I'll pop them in a hot oven until they are nicely browned. So it's been a good 5 minutes or so on a moderate to high heat, and you can see there's just a little bit of colour starting to come on these carrots now, and well, there's quite a lot of golden colour on them, so I don't want to take them any further at this stage. It is time to get the yellow peppers in, and these are now going to cook for probably quarter of an hour at least. I'll tell you after they're done, but it's going to take quite a long time to cook these down. These can have a little bit of colour, but they need to be sort of softened and sweetened by frying in the olive oil there. So these croutons now, they are golden and pretty much crispy. So I'm just going to give them a little bit of black pepper. Actually, I can remove that. Ow, that is hot. That garlic clove now. And I want a pinch of salt in there, not too much, just a little bit. And then the magic happens with a little bit of Parmesan. And I say a little, it's never going to be a little. So just grate some over there. Give that a quick shimmy. And then a little bit more. Right, back in the oven with those for, well, only a few minutes now, just until the cheese is melted and everything is golden brown. Trust me, these are the most delicious croutons. Golden brown, crispy, cheesy, a little bit of garlic in there, absolutely delicious. Right, I'm going to leave those to cool down and get the onions in the pot. So the peppers have been in here now for about 20 minutes and they're on a pretty high heat still. They're not quite where I want them to be yet, but they are softening and they will start to pick up a little bit of colour. But I need to cook the onions as well, and these will be in here another 10 minutes probably before I'll add any liquid. And yeah, these can just cook down for another at least 5 minutes, but probably a good 10 minutes. So these have had probably about 40 minutes now, and cooking the veg down like that is so important to get the flavour here. But now it's ready for the stock. So I'm going to simmer that now. It needs 10 minutes, but it could be simmered for a little longer than that. 15 to 20 minutes would be ideal. Just make sure everything is really nice and soft there. And then I'm going to blend it. So just bring that back up to the boil and then a gentle simmer. Right, while that's coming up to a boil, I want to get some black pepper and some salt in there. I'll adjust the seasoning later, but I want to start with something in there. The reason I didn't add salt earlier on is because it draws moisture out of the vegetables, and I want them to fry rather than boil, so it's always better, I think, to add the salt later on with this kind of dish. And that's enough to get along with for now, and I can add some more later if it needs it. Right, that has been simmering for, well, a good 20 minutes now, and I think it's ready to blend. Everything looks nice and soft. Well, I think you can take that about as far as you want, and I'm not going to be too fussy today. That looks pretty smooth. There are no big lumps in there, and if you want the silkiest, smoothest soup, by all means pass that through a fine sieve. I've done it sometimes, but maybe if I had guests this evening I would do that, but as it's just me, I'm not going to bother. What it does want though is a splash of cream. Just a random amount of cream here. This is double cream. I'm just going to do it by eye. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Quite a few portions here. I think that will do. Now that I've blended it and added the cream, I'm just going to pop it back on the hob for a minute, but not for long, and I don't want it to start boiling now. So just a gentle heat. So you can see that lovely yellow colour, and it's looking pretty smooth and creamy. I'm just going to check the seasoning now. It probably wants more salt. It does want a little bit more salt, but then it's done. Right, that's back up to temperature. There, and the soup is finished. That is perfect. And then just a few of those cheesy croutons in the centre. And this is a very special soup. It's delicious. It's creamy and rich in texture. The flavour is very sweet from the vegetables, not just from the peppers, but the carrots and the onions as well. And there's just a very special flavour in it that is purely yellow pepper. I know I've got carrots and onions and I've got the stock, but you can't detect any of that. That's part of the background base flavour. The flavour that comes through, that is entirely yellow pepper. And it's quite a subtle flavour, but it's absolutely fantastic. And of course, you're not going to beat a garlicky, cheesy crouton. Wonderful. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you happen to grow lots of peppers, and if you happen to have lots of yellow peppers, I can thoroughly recommend this soup. It is easy to prepare, very simple, but incredibly flavorful. And it's one of my favorite ways of using the yellow peppers in particular. Quite delicious. Anyway, that is all for this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and bye for now.